Hello. So I've seen a lot of arguments that flat earthers will use that are supposed to prove that the earth is flat. And really, all that I feel that it boils down to is this meme that they're just using their eyes. In reality, there are so many things that you can look at that tell you that you live on a globe. And I wanted to talk about them, point out a few of these things that you can see with your own eyes that are proof that there is that we live on a globe. So the night sky is so freaking cool, dude. If you're looking out at the night sky and it's a clear, beautiful night and you know what you're looking at, you can see exactly where we sit in our galaxy. It's pretty damn cool. So we all agree that the sky moves, right? We can see it happening with our own eyes. If you don't mind standing outside at nighttime when it's a little bit chilly, it's a good old grand old time. If you can see Polaris, the North Star, you can actually see the sky rotating around that one point. And the same is true in the south, but you don't have one specific star that the sky moves around. The sky still moves around a specific point, which is called the celestial south pole, just as the celestial north pole points almost exactly at Polaris, and so we just tend to refer to the North Star when we're talking about the celestial North Pole. So the celestial poles are fixed in place. All stars that are not at those points are gonna shift across the sky throughout the night and also throughout the year. There are some flat earthers that claim that the Earth, the disk of the Earth will remain stationary as the sky moves above it. It makes sense that if you're looking up at the North Star that you can see that the sky is rotating around that specific point. However, with the flat Earth model, there is no explanation as to why the sky moves around a specific point in the south. If the sky were just a big disk sitting above the disk of the Earth, there would be no one specific spot around which the southern stars would be rotating. Yet you can see it anyway. Furthermore, for somebody also standing at the equator, Polaris is going to be sitting right at the horizon, but for every degree of latitude that you move north, the North Star is going to be sitting 1 degree higher in the horizon. And for every degree north you travel, the celestial south pole is going to be hidden 1 degree behind the horizon. If we were on a flat Earth, this effect wouldn't happen. As you moved further away from the equator, the southern stars would kind of get smushed together. You know those optical illusions where on your phone it just looks like a mess of weird lines, and then if you take your phone and you look along the plane of your phone, then it suddenly becomes like a message. That's essentially the same thing that would happen in our night sky. But we don't see that happen. So this is an effect called foreshortening. You can see it if you look at train tracks going into the distance. I can give you an example of it here. Are you ready? When I'm over here, I look really small. But when I'm over here, I look really big. That's foreshortening. And I could definitely see a flat earther making the argument that it is due to foreshortening that you can't see stars in the south, or stars that are in the east when you're in the west. But it falls flat. Because we would still be able to see these things. I feel like there's a lack of understanding of the distance involved here. Stars are hundreds of light years away, which is so inconceivably far away that you can't even conceive of it. Let's talk about the moon. So I live in the northern hemisphere, so to me, the moon looks like this. However, to people who live in Australia, this is what the moon looks like. Very different. It's just flipped upside down. So on a flat Earth, this wouldn't happen. But in our globe head world, moving south of the equator means being upside down to people north of the equator. Australians and Kiwis, they look at the moon, this is what it looks like to them. But for me, a little old Canadian boy, that's upside down and weird to me. Also, so day and night are a thing, right? Remember what I was saying about foreshortening? Well, if we were on a flat plane instead of a globe, the sun would never set. It would just get smaller and smaller, and the shadows would get longer and longer until it started to come back towards us, and then our shadows would start to get smaller again. There's also the classic debunk. If you're looking at the horizon and you see a ship coming towards you, you're going to see it mast first, and then you're going to see the rest of the ship as it approaches you. Or if you are watching a ship disappear into the horizon, the bottom of the ship will disappear and it will look like it is sinking into the ocean as it disappears over the horizon. Do y'all know about Occam's razor? It's essentially the idea that the simplest explanation is the most likely explanation. Some flat earthers will claim that their geocentric model is the simplest explanation as it is just directly observed. But with simplicity also comes consistency. If you have to keep tacking on more and more explanations to hand wave the phenomena that you are observing, the explanation that you're working from is not a simple explanation, because it has to continue to get more and more complex to explain all of these phenomena. That's why we no longer go with the geocentric Ptolemaic system of our solar system. Fucking Ptolemy, man. The idea of a spherical world is consistent with the rest of our scientific understanding of the universe. Because of that, it is nearly impossible for me to address absolutely every single piece of evidence that is in favor that we live on a globe. This is because pretty much everything that we know about our universe points to the heliocentric model as opposed to the geocentric model. One of the things that you'll often see in flat earth circles is people disagreeing about some minutia about their model of the solar system. There are some flat earthers that believe in geocentrism. There are others that believe in the heliocentric model. There are some that believe that other planets are also flat. There are some that believe that Earth is the only flat planet, and the fact that we can see the shadows that the other planets make on themselves, we can tell that they are spheres. Once again, it's about consistency. The vast majority of scientists will agree that we live on a spherical world. So now we get to the point where I have to address that I don't think I'm going to change any minds with this video. Confirmation bias is ridiculously powerful, and it drives us to ignore things that refute our beliefs and seek out things that agree with our beliefs, and then giving more weight to the things that are in favor of the things that we already believe. In the sciences, it is most exciting when the results of your experiment go against what your original assumption and your original hypothesis said that it would be. Because if you get an unexpected result, you gotta figure out why that unexpected result happened, and that could lead to more scientific discoveries in the future. Jesus. And actually, when you are studying the sciences, you are trained to try to disprove your hypothesis rather than prove it. If you are deliberately seeking out evidence that runs counter to your argument, it acts as a defense against confirmation bias. And when you do find something that refutes your initial prediction, you have to accept that. There's this documentary that goes really in depth on flat earthers. Two main things from that documentary that really stick into my mind. The first is this experiment that they do where they're trying to show that the Earth is flat. They get this really fancy gyroscope that accurately show the precession of the Earth as the Earth spins.
Recently, we carried out an experiment to test rotation to the Earth. If the Earth is spinning at one rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to drift. In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth. One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15-degree-per-hour drift. Now, obviously we were taken aback by that. Wow, that's kind of a problem, right? We obviously were not willing to accept that, and so we started looking for ways to disprove that it was actually registering the motion of the Earth and that it in fact was registering the motion of the sky.
Their hypothesis is that there are some heavenly energies that are causing this gyroscope to turn.
So the next thing that we set out to do was to encase the fiber optic gyro in what's called a zero Gauss chamber to see if we could actually shield the energies being generated by the heaven. And we were unsuccessful with that, unfortunately.
And they still see the same precession of the planet in the gyroscope, and they can't seem to accept that. They don't like that. And they say that they gotta do more studies, they gotta do more to figure out what's going on here.
The next thing that we're going to try is encasing the entire apparatus in bismuth.
The second scene that sticks in my head from this documentary, definitely pretty famous. I've seen it used by a lot of people on the internet before. And essentially, they set up this really neat experiment where they have this gorge that's really long, and they have these 3 boards that have holes drilled into them.
We have a backup experiment. You're seeing through this hole, through the next hole, and seeing the light at the back board, or 17 feet off the water. The Earth is flat. If he's holding it up at 23 feet high and we're seeing the light, well, that's because the Earth's curved. So I should only be able to see it when it's at 17 feet.
And they get the result that shows that the Earth is round.
Enrique, how high is your light?
17 feet.
I mean, it's as, we don't see you, Enrique. Lift up your light way above your head. Interesting.
And they don't accept it. They say that they got to do more to figure out what the hell is going on, or try to figure out why they keep getting these results, instead of just accepting that the experiment that they did is refuting their hypothesis. It's going against what they expect the world to be. So I do also want to just talk a little bit about the means by which we go about trying to convince people that they're wrong. And I do think that shame and ridicule can be really powerful tools for getting these people to change their minds. It can also drive them further into these fringe communities that are more willing to accept their beliefs. I feel like somebody who is like just at the beginning of starting to explore these theories, if you poke a little bit of fun at them and give them a hard time, that might be enough for them to steer clear of full-on legitimately believing in this thing. But for the people who are entirely entrenched in this, and this is the entirety of their lives, making fun of them is only going to push them further into the rabbit hole. So my hope in making this video is that if somebody who believes that the Earth is flat were to watch this, that they wouldn't feel like I'm belittling them or like I'm talking down to them, and I don't want them to think that I'm making fun of them. You know, everybody is wrong about something at some point in their lives, and we shouldn't shame people for being wrong about stuff. If they, you know, learn that that thing is wrong and they learn to grow from it and not believe in that thing anymore. If you grew up believing in Santa, can you remember being told that Santa isn't real? Remember how just reality shattering it was to learn that there is no Santa Claus? A lot of people in our world grew up believing in Santa and no longer believe in Santa. And we don't shame people for that. I feel like we should have the same disposition towards people who believed in flat Earth. They were misled. And if we ridicule people who believe in conspiracy theories, they're only going to get more and more entrenched into these conspiracy theories. We gotta show at least a little bit of compassion for them to like have a reason to come to our side. Because we're just isolating people if we make fun of them. But I just hope that, you know, somebody will be able to find my video and like maybe be convinced or like challenged in their current views on the world. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, I'm pretty sure there's a button that you can press that tells YouTube that you did enjoy the video. And if you want to watch more videos made by me, I do intend on making more. And so I really wish that YouTube had like some button that you could press that would like like subscribe you to a specific creator so that way you would be notified when they actually started releasing videos. If you have something that you use to combat conspiracies, please drop it in the comments. I would love to get a look at that. Anyway, this is my first video. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.